So here we are. It's great to meet in the morning miracle. It is morning for two of us here, and the rest it's not morning at all. So that's amazing. So welcome to the morning miracle, the manual for teachers. Say another look at the manual for teachers. And so today is with magic, the magic miracle confusion, you could say, the resolve of that at least, because that will not be an issue anymore after this, of course. So that's the purpose of this meeting, to resolve all the confusion about miracles and magic. And why is that confusing? Why could miracles and magic be confusing is what we're going to discover for it to be resolved, of course. You have to know why it is confusing, otherwise you don't understand anything about it, what a miracle is or what magic is. So that's why it's also in the master teacher, in the teacher manual, and that's why we say use that as our starting point, but we're not really using the teacher's manual. It is more like, how do you deal with magical thoughts as a teacher of God? That is the question. And magical thoughts are thoughts like, you go to a doctor, you get a pill, you put a pill in your mouth and you hope to be better. That would be a magical idea. Or you push some fluid into your veins and think that that can restore your sanity or your health. And these are magical thoughts that we have gotten used to. And that's just a superficial couple of examples where you see that happening. And so why is this so important today? Because like in the discovery of that you are aware of how you are thinking, this is an essential step, of course. That's why we do that. And the lessons help with that, because in lesson 50 you read about the examples that I used, like a little fluid pushed into your veins, a pill, or like a stack of green paper strips, thinking that that is your supply, and all these magical thoughts. You can say like the human consciousness is full of magical thoughts. It really thinks that if you don't have green paper strips, for in the US at least, and green paper strips in your wallet, that you're going to be hopeless in that sense. And that is a magical thought. That's not reality. So that's why this is essential. The human life is imbued with magical ideas. Thinking that there are powers outside of you, for instance, is a magical thought too. Thinking that these powers can do something to you would be like a child's dream, and like a nightmare where the monsters are coming out from under the bed and not sure what they're gonna do. Like there's a crocodile under the bed, and that is a magical thought. If you look under it, you see there's no crocodile at all. But that was just a fear that raised the child is in imagination that there is something happening. Now the comparison with the child, we face that today too. So then also what is actually comforting you in this? What can bring you down to sanity in this journey? To release magical ideas, but to invite the miracle. So, I'm not going to directly define magic, and I'm not going to directly define a miracle, because a miracle is undefinable. And magic is, I could say something about that, but like the examples are speaking for itself. I don't need to define it. But you have to recognize it. I have to recognize it when I'm actually believing that there is such a thing, That is of importance. And that does something with you, because basically it never comforts you. It will always place something outside of you that can do something with you. So that is in fact the main idea that we're taking a look at today. And now we have beautiful lessons at this point. I'm actually wanting to take a little bit of time to look at the lesson of today. Father, I will but to remember you. What can I seek for, Father, but your love? Perhaps I think I seek for something else, something that is have called by many names. Yet is your love the only thing I seek or ever sought. For there is nothing else that I could ever really want to find. Let me remember you. What else could I desire but the truth about myself? This is your will, my brother, and you share this with me. You share this will with me, and with the one as well who is our Father. To remember him is heaven. This we seek, and only this is what it will be given us to find. Father, I will but to remember you. What can I seek for, Father, but your love? Perhaps I think I seek for something else, as something I have called by many names. Yet is your love the only thing I seek or ever sought. For there's nothing else that I could ever really want to find. Let me remember you. What else could I desire but the truth about myself? All right, thank you so much. So, just a moment of quiet. That's so great. So thank you for joining in that. And so we continue with the miracle, magic, confusion, resolve, and magic, miracle, confusion, resolve. Now here we go first into behavior. And it will bring you, we use the idea of magic to come to a whole different way of looking at everything again. And that is the invitation. Destructive behavior is instinctual. The instinct for creation is not obliterated in miscreation. That is why it is always invested with reality. One of the chief ways in which man can correct his magic, miracle, confusion is to remember that he did not create himself. He is apt to forget this when he becomes egocentric, and this places him in a position where belief in magic is virtually inevitable. His instincts for creation were given him by his own creator, who was expressing the same instinct in his creation. Since the creative ability rests solely in the mind, everything which man creates is necessarily instinctive. That is such an interesting expression. I never discovered this in the course. So he is apt to forget this, that you are created by God, when he becomes egocentric, and this places him in a position where belief in magic is virtually inevitable, thinking that he has his own power and can do whatever he wants. His instincts for creation were given him by his own creator, who was expressing the same instinct in his creation. Since the creative ability rests solely in the mind, everything which man creates is necessarily instinctive. And there's one more. One of the chief ways in which man can correct his magic miracle confusion is to remember that he did not create himself. This is so deep that I want to stand still with it. So it's like we immediately go into the matter, and now it's like, okay, so how is this really working? How am I doing the things that I'm doing? Is that instinctive? Is God instinctive? Like, what is an instinct? It is like something that you do as a drift, like as a passion. It needs to burst open and happen like this. And that is the nature. You can say like that is the self-creative expression of the universe. Right? That is, a creative passion. And that is the basis of creation. Now thinking that you can use that for yourself because you have this power is what you think. You can use it for your own ideas is what you think in your egocentric episode here, that you forget about everything else, that you did not make yourself at all. So the whole idea of that you made yourself is one incredible magical idea. The idea that you raised yourself, like with the use of your parents or however that came about, but you became something that you are in fact not, is an incredible magical thought. And so that you have used the creative power of the universe to do so, because there is no other power. But this is only in your imagination. That is then the amazing thing about it. Now here, in the depth of this, it is like here you believe in what you do because you believe that you made yourself. You believe in your own definitions of yourself, as we say. It's like you believe that to be you. You forget about that you did not create yourself. Now this fundamental misconception of yourself is what is occurring in your transformation is like exactly the opposite. So we learn to ask Spirit what to do, how to take a step, so to speak, or am I coming into action, or am I being moved by Spirit, or is it my own will that I'm forcing on this? So that's really essential to have clarity about that, but also to learn to listen. That's why we meditate. That's why we slow down. Otherwise, you take your thoughts that you generate, literally, the thoughts that you make, because you think you are yourself and you have a mind that can generate thoughts. It looks like that. So then you start to believe these and live by them. And live, in fact, a magical life. But that is not, like that is a destructive way of living your life, because in the end it will bring you to one point, which is death. Like that is destructive, however you want to put it. It is already like a suicide action. And I use these words like because you recognize those. In fact, that is suicide. Like that is self-destructive. Now, but only in your imagination, so it doesn't have a real effect at all. But in your experience of yourself, in your imagination, it sure feels like a real experience. It sure feels like total desperation, total painful, total this, total that. Like, it does feel like that, but it has nothing to do with the reality of who you are. Because the reality of who you are is light, is happiness, is joy, is peace, is a sense of home. It is connectedness. So this is really fundamental what is happening here. And this is the only place, in fact, where the miracle, magic, confusion can dissolve or resolve. And that is realizing I did not make myself. I'm created as God created me. Now that is the fundamental line, you could say, in our transformation. Because every time that you experience, like we saw it yesterday too, every time you experience lack, limitation, pain, illness, disease, disaster, and on and on and on, what is that? That is a belief that you are self-made, in fact, that at least not. God did not make you because you weren't created perfectly, apparently. You see how fundamental this is? It is literally unbelievable. And so that's why, to me, to take something from chapter 2 into this is very helpful, because it places you right in the conflict, where you recognize, I really believe that I'm who I am. I really believe that I am this so-and-so old person with a body, living in time and space, doing the things that I'm doing, having my own will. I can do whatever I want. At least I believe that there are things outside of me, and on and on and on. Like, that is continuously confirming your life. And you look for confirmation in your daily life. You look for confirmation, in fact, for the unreality that you are. You do everything for that. So all of that is, in fact, you as a self-made entity, you as a self-defined set of associations, and confirmed by shadow figures that you made up to confirm yourself. The creations of God. So now we step over into chapter 4. The creations of God do not create myths, but the creative efforts of man can turn to mythology, but only under one condition. What man then makes is no longer creative. Myths are entirely perceptions, and are so ambivalent in form and so characteristically good and evil in nature, that the most benevolent of them is not without fearful components, if only in innuendo. So I thought it was very interesting to come to this too, because now we're talking about myths and mythology. It's like myths are entirely perceptions. Now here is, you can say, like, in my humanness, what do? I'm actually walking around as an entity in a myth that I believe myself to be, like the memoirs of you. You walk around in your memories. You walk around in an say, dream of duality. You believe there's good and bad. There's someone else and there's you. There's a God and there's you. There's all the imperfections that you are perceiving are based on duality, on comparisons. So that is your myth that you believe to be true. You literally live out the character that you think yourself to be. And with magical powers, of course. So it can do this and it cannot do that. And it is really good at that and it cannot do so well that. So, in other words, it's really like the story of you, as long as you believe that story to be true. And that is the mythology of the individual. So I thought that was a great angle into the idea of magic, because mythology is basically also full of magic. The whole idea of duality is based on magic, opposing forces, outside, inside, attack, defense. To me, something is opening up here as like, well, that is so great to see this in this light, because now the story is made complete again. Like, that is why you believe your myth to be true. You don't believe it is a myth. You really believe it's your existence, your life, while you're a character in the story that you made up yourself. And there are players in the story, other characters in the story, that you give a specific function in order to, in fact, confirm your existence in that story. There's another angle. So this is just wonderful. It's like that's coming really together. So let's see what else is there. So there's always fear connected to it, obviously. Myths and magic are closely associated, in that myths are actually related to the ego origins, and magic to the powers which the ego ascribed to itself. Every mythological system includes an account of the creation and associates this with its particular perception of magic. Myths and magic are closely associated, in that myths are usually related to the ego's origins, like the hero or the main player or and magic to the powers to which the ego ascribes to itself. Every mythological system includes an account of the creation and associates this with particular perception of magic. This related to the idea of myths then, mythology. So it's great to see it, yourself as a character in a dream, and to see that that's actually the myth that you have believed to be true. But see, in transformation we see like, no, this myth is busted. It doesn't really exist at all. And you can entertain yourself with it, quote unquote. You can entertain yourself with it as long as you want, but it's not going to be real. And it's a temporal story. It might be a beautiful story in your imagination, and it might be a horrible story. It really doesn't matter. And using magical formulas to redirect the storyline is what you do. Like, you try to look for solutions in the confrontations that are coming your way, and then that does something, and you believe that to be a real occurrence. See how much. See, if you once believe that illusions are true, then illusions become your reality. And we see this in the beginning lessons too, and that just basically goes out of hand as you continue to stay in it. And that's why there's no solution in the dream, because the dream is unreal and there's no real option in it. And that's why we say, like, you have to wake up out of it in order to come to know yourself. But every aspect of your mythological endeavor has no reality. Now this is pretty amazing. So you just saw, like, we go to chapter 5 too. The guiltless mind cannot suffer. Being sane, it heals the body because it has been healed. The mind has been healed. The sane mind cannot conceive of illness because it cannot conceive of attacking anything or anyone. We said before that illness is a form of magic. It might be better to say it is a form of magical solution. The ego believes that by punishing itself, it will mitigate the punishment of God. So this is revealing, right? The guiltless mind cannot suffer. Being sane, the guiltless mind, and we're talking about a guiltless mind, is sane. It heals the body because it has been healed. The sane mind cannot conceive of illness because it cannot conceive of attacking anything or anyone, including itself, of course. We said before that illness is a form of magic. It might be better to say it is a form of magical solution. The ego believes that by punishing itself, it will mitigate the punishment of God. Okay, so yeah, this is wonderful. You see here is another angle. So the sane mind, like where's the sane mind in your consciousness? Where's that sane mind? And that sane mind is a mind that is not distracted by form, that is not distracted by ideas of limitation, but in fact recognizes itself as the only source of reality. And it doesn't need pictures, it doesn't need images, it doesn't need imagination, it doesn't know fear at the same time, it doesn't know fear. And you can say, like, in our practicing the presence, this is what happens. Like there are people actually practicing presence as a soul meditation practice. That's the only thing they do. Why is that? Because in fact that is the only real moment that there is. If you would collide in that, you recognize your wholeness. There's no deviation. There's nothing that can take you out of it then. Now here we see that you have used your mind to come up with a solution, and you use your body for it because you believe that that's part of you. You use your thoughts for it because you believe that you're guilty of something, like you're actually afraid of God in your experience of yourself, recognizing that something must have gone wrong and you need a punishment. Now this is an insane belief, of course, that a human being carries with him, but it's also mostly deeply below the conscious level. So he acts from there. You can say, like, it is covered. It acts from there out of fear that God might attack or something God might punish. Now here comes the ego with a solution to this deep fear, and that is in introducing the idea of, say, a pre-punishment, in which hopefully the punishment of God is going to be relieved, like becomes a little bit less. And see how magical this thinking is, but see how also it is part of your thinking, until it isn't, of course, but it's part of your thinking that you think that something isn't perfect and you actually don't want to face God because you seem to not be able to manifest this perfection. And then here's the solution. It is pretty amazing to see, and you might go back to the very, very moment where you first experienced physical discomfort, or where you first experienced your symptoms. And that is this place is where there is a moment in which you literally have a choice in picking up the symptoms that you are fighting now. Like there's a moment where that started, and that was a choice to step into that. I've seen this for myself too, in for instance, an idea of depression. I came to the point where I consciously saw that I chose for a depression. I had the options like right in front of me. I was consciously aware that it was a decision to go into this regression, to in fact cope with the situation I found myself in. I really thought, like, if I just drop everything and fall into this depression, then whatever the consequences of that were. But that seemed to be a solution, like a magical solution. And so you can bring it back, like, in fact, it is always related to a conscious choice that at a certain point you have made, but forgot about it. But you're able to bring it back into your consciousness where you actually made the choice to pick that up and use it against yourself, to attack yourself, you could say. Like, that was a magical formula to come to that. Now, you don't have to go back to it. You can say, like, okay, I must have picked it up. I don't know when I did it. I must have picked it up in some kind of way. The thing now is that I want to be restored to sanity. I want to release all magical thoughts. But see, when you do that, is in fact a call to wake up, to be restored to sanity, is to release every idea that you hold about yourself, giving up your whole mythology that you've been carrying around and in fact have been teaching to everyone around you, to let yourself be confirmed in your myth. And since that doesn't work any longer, you can become freed of that. So that would be your ultimate magic miracle resolve, confusion resolve. Because the miracle is really what the present moment is. The miracle is exactly the point where you are not, say, letting a horizontal confirmation come to you as who you are, but being lifted up into a vertical, say, upliftment that takes you completely out of the story for a moment. So, but then it's like, then you already have letting go of all of this. Then you have allowed healing. Then you have given up your mythology, your own myth. So that's very fundamental, and that's why I love to take time to take a look at this. So how do you deal with magical thoughts? In fact, you have to give them away. You have to recognize that you believe in your own myth, and that myth has no reality whatsoever, not any aspect of it. So that means you're not limited by it, and you can be lifted out of it any time that you want, because it was your decision to go into it, whether that was conscious as a choice or not. How can you wake children better and more kindly than with a gentle voice that will not frighten them, but will merely remind them that the night is over and the light has come? Yeah, we know this, huh? You take it easy with children when they come out of a frightening dream or anything. You say, no, dream is gone, the light is here, the night is gone. I am here, everything is safe. You do not inform them that the nightmares which frightened them so badly were not real, because children believe in magic. You merely reassure them that they are safe now. Then you train them to recognize the difference between sleeping and waking, so that they will understand they need not be afraid of dreams. Then, when bad dreams come, they will call on the light themselves to dispel them. This is you as a child. It's like you're in a nightmare, you're in a myth. Like a myth is always full with horror stories, aspects of fear and thrill and magical occurrences and blah blah blah, whatever that is. Call it a human life. It is what a nightmare is. Any time the phone rings, it can be a bad message coming from somewhere. Like you're always like 1 minute away from a disaster. Whether you open your telephone, whether you open your apps to see what's happening in the world, it can be just like that. And it can be just around the corner. So there's no safety in your myth. It is constantly staying alert to protect yourself. And that is the nature of the nightmare that you find yourself. So here Jesus says, like with children, you would do the same. You would say, you're safe now. So with that, what came to you as the resolve of this, of the healing of this that is offered to you, it is like, yes, you can trust this now. You can completely rely on this because you were in a bad dream and you have made it so real for yourself. Now it's time to come home and to come out of this nightmare. You're safe now. And that means too, it's like you don't have to understand everything that occurred in your dream. No, just realize that the nightmare is over, that the light is right here. Now coming into the practice, that would be the next step then, learning your child to literally distinguish between waking and sleeping. This is exactly what we do here. What is the difference between sleeping and waking? In your sleeping, in your myth, in the myth that you believe yourself to be, in the darkness that you in fact grope around, in fact grope around in your dream, of course, because it's not a fact. It is the imagination that plays, that comes to you as an image. It shows you. This is your reality, but it isn't, of course. So you now know that your thoughts are meaningless. You now know that none of this is so, that everything that you're looking at is already over, is gone. It is not there, so it can have no effect. It has no effect on eternity. And what is eternity? That is your reality. But not as you see yourself, because you believe something else about yourself. But now it's time to let go of that belief. Exactly that. So this was then the next step. You learn to distinguish between sleep and waking. Waking is active. Waking is light. Waking is relaxation. Waking is peace. Waking is being right here, not distracted. Not distracted by any considerations or discomfort or concern, but staying present in this moment and letting this moment be everything there is. See, that is then the next step. The step after that is that when you suddenly seem to be in a nightmare again, that you know that that's just a dream, that it has nothing to do with reality. You know, we're coming into true perception or true empathy too. It's like true perception is here. It is a dream. It has no reality. It can have no effect on me, really. And I'm asking for help to the light. I'm allowing the light to come into this situation. I step back out of the situation to allow the light to resolve this, what I'm imagining here, because I know it has no reality. So then you are coming into your healing consciousness that you take with you wherever you go. Now, see, these are 3 steps in the magic, miracle, confusion, resolve. In fact, you are inviting the miracle to as your option, just like we said yesterday, like you invite a miracle as your one option. And release all the rest. So this is what we do. You call on the light. We learn to they will call on the light themselves to dispel the darkness. Okay, so here we are, and this is really lovely too. That's why I love to bring that into. We're still doing good on time. Healing is both an art and a science. As often as it has been said, it is an art. Healing is an art because it depends on inspiration. It depends on spirit, on inspiration, being in spirit. In the sense that we have already used the term. Inspiration is the opposite of dispiriting, and therefore means to make joyful. The dispirited are depressed because they believe that they are literally without the spirit, which is an illusion. This is a full circle here, and you can read it that way too. Like healing is both an art and a science, as so often has been said. It is an art because it depends on inspiration, in the sense that we have already used the term. Inspiration is the opposite of dispiriting, and therefore means to make joyful. Inspiration is to make joyful. The dispirited are depressed because they believe that they are literally without the spirit, which is an illusion. You do not put the spirit in them by inspiring them, because that would be magic, and therefore would not be real healing. But you do recognize the spirit that is already there, and thereby reawaken it. This is why the healer is part of the resurrection and the life. The spirit is not asleep in the minds of the sick, but the part of the mind that can perceive it and be glad is. The spirit is not asleep in the minds of the sick, but the part of the mind that can perceive it, that can perceive the spirit and be glad is. See, the spirit is not asleep. That's good to know too. It's like the spirit is not asleep in the minds of the sick. No. So the part of the mind that can perceive it and be glad is in the spirit, in the mind of the sick. It is there. It just needs to be reawakened. It is already there. So this is really great. It's like you do not put the spirit in them by inspiring them, because that would be magic and therefore would not be real healing. But you do recognize the spirit that is already there and thereby reawaken it. That's why the healer is part of the resurrection and the life. The spirit is not asleep in the minds of the sick, but the part of the mind that can perceive it and be glad is. So wonderful. So it's like it's both an art and a science. It has to do with inspiration. If you are inspirited, then you are inspirited and you are inspirited. See, the recognition is that you are inspirited. The spirit cannot leave you. Simple as that. Like it literally is impossible that it can leave you. It might have to be reawakened in your consciousness, but that's a real possibility. So that's really what the miracle is, to reawaken, seeing that the miracle is with you, that literally the connection isn't lost. No, you're the dreamer of a dream, and you in fact recognize that by allowing the miracle to happen. Then you have a moment, like a moment of a reawakening. It is a moment that you'll be lifted out of your construct, of your limitation, of your dream. See, I'm not really explaining this to a certain extent. It's like the thing is with this is the discovery is really It is within you. Now, to believe it isn't is a magical thought. And you can use that as long as you want. So we say like your awakening or your enlightenment is just one thought away from you. The belief that you think it isn't accomplished is what keeps you from experiencing its totality. And you believe, you always believe something. You cannot not teach, is what we say as teachers of God. Like you cannot not teach. It's impossible. So you teach always something. You teach that your myth is real, or you teach that you're inspirited and that spirit is moving you, and that it's like all decisions are already made for you. You just have to allow things to fall into place. And you just listen instead of forcing something or making it work or trying to complete your dream. All right, so this is then the magic miracle confusion resolve. And the miracle is here with you. Like we looked at that yesterday too. It's like the miracle is an expression of love. And that you recognize, because that is what you are. So you recognize yourself when the miracle happens. You recognize yourself as a connected part of the universe. And this will not happen in your myth. You always are on your own. You always are trying to work it out yourself. So that's a fundamental difference between the myth that you have made up. It will never be complete. There's always fear connected to it. While the miracle suddenly lifts you out of your fear construct and sets you free of that as an experience, not as an idea, but as an experience. Suddenly it feels very natural to be in light and love and extension. Now this we practice, so that makes the, say, discovering the difference between waking and sleeping makes it more obvious. So it's really like by experience that this becomes more and more clear, not by your considerations. So that was in fact what I wanted to share with you, and it's really great to read the part about how teachers of God deal with magical thoughts of their students, because you will recognize that is obvious that that's going to happen. Like, how do you deal with it? Well, not confirming its reality, but basically offering comfort and saying, like, that was a myth. That is not a reality. Or as Joel Goldsmith would say, it's like it's a rumor. It's a rumor. It's not a reality. It was just a reflection. It is just a reflection. And in that comes the recognition of what the miracle truly is. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining in the Morning Miracle. Thank you for everything, and bye for now.